Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian own that they control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 304, Sunday service for trustees. Trust live forever. Definitely look forward to doing this episode. Appreciate all the trustees that listeners that have listened to the podcast for weeks and years. Even if this is your first time listening, always appreciate you. Uh, we've actually always had people request us to do Sunday service for trustees. So today we're going to do another episode of Sunday service for trustees. Trust live forever. Definitely want to do this episode. It's just high in demand. People keep asking about it. We actually had a trustee this past week ask a question similar to this, about trust living forever and things of that nature. So we're definitely going to make it a point to talk about this subject matter today uh, and just go over this. So once again, this is episode 304, Sunday Service for Trustees. Trust live forever. Uh, Trustees ask this question, particularly when we talk about does the trust live forever? A lot of trustees are in trust contracts. When we look at any great institution, all institutions, whether it's insurance, whether it's colleges, all of them have started from a contract. The United States was started from a contract. How long can a contract last? Well, they have to renew it. When you look at the United States government, doesn't the government say, oh, we don't renew our budget, we can't go back to work? So there's a system in place, which is a trust. It has parties, it has rules, it has regulations, and the government. Who owns the government? The politicians do not own the government. They are trustees. They are servants to the system. They're supposed to be acting as a public officer to do the general good, for the general welfare. But it doesn't look like they're hurting. So do we have to talk this way? Does trust live forever? Is the United States going to live forever, or countries going to live forever? Because countries are trust contracts. They all have constitutions. They have people come together. Someone created it. And now generations later, people are administering it. They're administering the trust contract generations later. So they're doing that in the United States as a politician group. They're doing it. Where else can you do it? You do it in your normal life. Of course, they can live forever. Trust their contracts that are set up for many different things. Particularly when we talk about a country right now, it looks as though that the Constitution is the indenture. And these trustees keep amending it. But do you think a trustee, for the benefit of the trust, is going to create any type of new legislation that benefits the beneficiary? Or are they going to make it a point to benefit the trust? See, the job of the trustee is to be a fiduciary of those assets in that entity. Well, what are the politicians doing? They're being stewards of the assets that are in the entity. What are the assets in the entity? People try to say resources. People try to say humans. You got all different types of thought processes. But think about how long the United States has been around. Think about how long the Rothschilds Trust has been around. These trusts have been around for hundreds of years. We don't want to just throw out the 100-year-old trust. We're not going to throw out the ones that were created in the late 1800s with Rockefeller and Carnegie, any of the greats. We're going to talk about the ones that are hundreds of years old, that have survived 8 to 10 generations that have survived and said this is the model that you are to reproduce. See, everyone talks about generational wealth. Oh, I'm trying to build generational wealth. Are you modeling model system the system that the trust lives forever? Are you modeling that system as a trustee? How can a trust live forever if the trustees aren't modeling what the greats do? So we're going to talk about what the greats do internally today on this episode. How does a trust live forever? We're going to talk about that today. How the trust lives forever. It's through the management team, ladies and gentlemen. It's through the trustees. The trust can't drive the company vehicle. The trust can't live in the company house, the company properties, whether it's holding real estate or not. The trust can't live in those things. It's a document. Oh, okay. But how does it live for generations? How does the trust live forever? The way the trust lives forever is through good management, through good trustees, doing their job as trustees. They have good management skills. They create the minutes. They study. The best trustees are the best studiers. Oh no, Trust Christian, you can't say it like that. It's got to be a shortcut. Trust Christian, it's got to be a shortcut. There's no way. The best studier would. I'm barely studying. Then you understand why you may not have the trust live forever. Well, Trust Christian, the vault, we in a situation, we're just going to put on there that it could live forever. So you're the grantor of the trust. These are the questions we ask. We talk about good trusteeship in the Vault's trustee training program. Just to remind you all, we have a quarterly workshop coming up for trustees and non-trustees. It's going to be held in Atlanta. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Say it one more time, Christian at trustchristian.com to get the flyer. And seats are obviously, limited. We always do that. The event is really for trustees, but we do open it up for non-trustees to come in and sit down and go over educational class. It's an educational class. But you do get to connect with other trustees. You get to come in the environment. People always say, oh, I want to go private. I want to go private. But you're not mixing with private people. Oh, I'm listening to the vault. I'm going private. But then are you at the private workshops? There's not too many organizations out there that do private workshops. So when you can find and get in those organizations, you got to do what you got to do. We could share with you all even in the private organizations, and they still cost thousands of dollars to do one event. Some people say it's worth it. It is, because you're in the room with other resources, other trustees. That's how the trust lives forever, because you're partnered with other trustees. People in trust deal with people in trust. That's trusteeship. That's the trust living forever. It's trust working with other trust. Because that's trustees working with other trustees. And that's why this is Sunday service for trustees. Trust live forever. Does the trust really? Do you want it to live forever? Some people came to this past week. They said, well, Trust Christian, in the vault, if it can live forever, why would I want to not make it live forever? The reason you're not going to make it live forever is because you want to have the trustees to have a fail safe. What happens when you get 2 or 3 or 4 generations deep and trustees get a little careless? They don't have a fail safe in place. They don't have. Sometimes, we could see more parties involved making sure the trustees do their job. Some people say, oh, really? Do you have to have someone policing the trustee? Does someone need to police the trustee? Why not? Why not have someone police the trustee? You might have to have someone police the trustee. We don't do our best to encumber our trustees. But yes, have the grantor, even the trustee at any point can say, we need extra levels of protection. We need extra levels of, can this person help us out? Can this person help us do this? Can this person help us do that? Once again, it's a fail safe. It's a fail safe for trustees in the future. That's why we don't make them live forever. That's why we don't say they live forever. It's not that we don't want it to go from generation to generation, but living forever puts future trustees in a position where they might get careless. You wouldn't notice unless you've been around senior trustees of other operations, possibly, that have shared best practices with you. Best practices are making trustees renew the trust contract, whether it's 25 years, 7 years, 50 years, 100 years, even 20 years. A lot of times you'll see on the public side, a lot of trustees will do contracts for 20 years just because usually it takes about generational wealth to build about 20, 25 years. That's why people work 25, 30 years of their life to build generational wealth. You're supposed to build generational wealth to pass it along to the next generation. Well, most people that have jobs don't do that, one. And two, uh, people that are inside of any type of system, you have to have fail safes in place. Fail safe says, look, when we get to my generation, at the end of my generation or at the end of the next generation, we have to make an assessment. We have to go over what are we doing as a trustees. You're the trustees of the trust. What are you doing? What are the next generation doing? Why can't we regain plan? Think about it. You have trust meetings every month. You have trust meetings quite often. You have trust meetings. Uh, uh, you have trust meetings uh, every quarter. So that's what we're going to talk about with trustees in trustee training today. Is the 90-day review. What did you do over the past 90 days as a trustee? What has the trust done? You can do taxes quarterly. Are you at the point as a trustee where you're doing taxes quarterly? If you're dealing with income, how does that work? How are you moving as a trustee? Do you do the quarterly reviews? Are you doing the weekly reviews? Are you doing the daily reviews? That's how a trust lives forever. Because there's substantiation, there's substance, there's some type of record. But are we seeing trustees do what they say they want to do? They're living a great life. Everybody wants to go private. Trustees want to be in a more secure position. Trustees want to grow their family wealth. They want to go from generation to generation. How do you go from generation to generation and you're not putting a system in place or developing a system in place? This is a system. Trusteeship is a part of a system. It's a bigger system than you. What is trusteeship a part of? Trust. So in turn, trustees, they have to be prepared to develop the system. So what's going to outlive the trustee? The trust or the system? The system. The system that other trustees have put in place for generations now. For generations. Are we there? Are we talking about that? Are we talking about the generational wealth that's being passed along? From generation to generation that trusts live forever? Those do. The ones that have a system in place. Ones that don't have a system in place, we can see how they're moving. Trustees know they got to put a system in place. That's what you're trained into. You don't get dependent on your skill set. You get dependent on putting the system in place. That trust live forever and it lives forever. Because the trustee put a system in place. The trustee developed the system that was in place. So having a renewal, like any business, think about it. Most corporations have to renew every year. So the trust and the trustees should be having renewal meetings every single year. It's called a board meeting. Maybe you have an annual board meeting. Maybe you have a meeting. but you have meetings. How many people are doing it though? How can you say you're going to take it and make a trust go from trust living forever and generational wealth when you didn't develop a system? What's the system? This is a system of accountability from each generation. It's not about your first name. It's about your last name. It's about the trustees that are trustees over a college. It's not about their name. It's about what they're going to do with the money. It's them making sure that the college can stay around forever. It's the same thing with the trustees over an endowment at the hospital. They're making sure that the hospital can stay in that area forever. It's the same thing with the trustees of a municipality. And it's supposed to be the same thing with the politicians for the United States. They're supposed to be trustees for the United States, the politicians. So let's see how they stack up. Because they're supposed to be the shining example of what a public trustee looks like. Not a private trustee, a public trustee. Character issues, scandals. Oh, wow. Crime happens at every end, huh? Even on the public side. Even with trustees. So how can the trust live forever if they have scandals? If they have people that are playing the bad character mix? Well, hey, nobody's perfect, and neither is the trust, and neither are the trustees. So that's why we renew contracts. That's why trusts don't live forever. We are okay with them going from generation to generation, but there is a renewal period. Why? Because the trustees have to be held accountable. You can't be a lifetime trustee doing nothing. You can't be a lifetime trustee. Think about how the trust would look if you were the trustee and it was $20 trillion in debt. Not in the plus, in the minus. How are you a good trustee? How is the trust going to live forever if you're allowing it to rack up debt? You're not coming up with developmental solutions to the problem. See, it's called kicking the can down the road to the next generation. Hey, if the last generation can live off debt, you can live off debt. What do you think the next generation is going to do? Live off debt. But are you living off debt as a trustee? Are you living off debt as a servicer? Or are you living off debt where you're a consumer? How can a trust live forever if it has debt? Do you know countries go bankrupt? Some people would type into the chat right now, oh, well, the United States is bankrupt. So once again, as a trustee, how are you going to pass it along from one generation to the next? How is the trust going to live forever if the trustees are racking up debt? It doesn't look like that system is working, is it? Oh, some people would say, well, the system, well, what are you going to say? Is the system working or not? They're $20 trillion in debt as trustees. Some of them have been in there for a generation, maybe two. That means almost 40 years. Clearly, we see why most of them have economics degrees. Not finance degrees, economics degrees. Supply and demand. Trust live forever, huh? How's the trust going to live forever and it's bankrupt? The United States is bankrupt. They're going through a reorganization. Well, that's not wrong, Trust Christian. That's how the market operates, Trust Christian. In the vault, that's how it operates. How can a trust live forever? Did you not know countries go bankrupt? Well, they're in a bankruptcy right now. No, it's not a complete bankruptcy. There's different levels to bankruptcy. It's 7, 11, and 13. There's levels to it. Which one are they in? Which one do you go in on your personal side when you go bankrupt? How can it live forever if it's going bankrupt? Do you just pull yourself out of trillions of dollars? Where you gonna get the money from? The tech stocks? The tech companies? How's the trust gonna live forever? Trust live forever, huh? Trustees renew. They have fail safes in place. They have a system of accountability in place. That's what they have in place. They have a system for the next generation to be accountable, just like they currently are being held accountable by a senior trustee. Senior trustees could be your mentor. That's why people get in trustee training, is because they want a senior mentor. When you live it, you become senior. When you're not living it, you're still a junior. Trustees. The way the trust lives forever is through good management, by you creating an internal system, an internal document as a trustee, as a manager, that says whether it's year, a set number of years or not, you're holding every trustee accountable. How much have they helped the trust? How much have they not helped the trust? Think about it. That's how some organizations are do better than others. It's because they have good management teams in place. They employ vigorous management systems. They implement and iterate as often as they possibly can. You have to iterate as a trustee, especially if you're first generation, because you don't have a system in place. So because you don't have a system in place, there's a lot more improvising. There's a lot more interpretation and different things. That's how trust live forever. See, we already know this isn't the conversation for everyone, but we know our audience at the vault. Trustees. This is Sunday service for trustees. Trust live forever. Because someone asked this past week, a trustee, and we know that this is a question that trustees across the board want to know. Do they die? When do they die? A trust can do something me and you'll never be able to do. And that's live forever. How? Through successive generations in management. Period. The trustees manage the trust. The trust can't default by itself. The trustees will have to end up dealing with that. Now, how many trustees are focused on doing that? Are you focused on doing that? Trusteeship. Bottom line is trusteeship. That's how the trust lives forever. You're doing meetings, you're going to events, you're networking, you're creating relationships, you're learning skill set, you're hiring and firing the right people to manage assets from one generation to the next. We're in the private family office space at trusteeship and private trusteeship. We're in the family office space. You got to set up a family office. How do you deal with those type of things? The family office traditionally is in trusteeship. How does the office for the family that manages the assets, that manages insurance policies, that manages educational expenses, things of that nature from one generation to the next? You manage it through trust. Well, if you manage it through trust, what does that mean? If you manage it through trust, that means you have an opportunity to live forever. Because your wishes will be heard. As a trustee, you don't have a will. You don't need a will. It's not legal advice, not financial advice for everybody that's listening. Tune in live, listen to replay. We always want to share those type of things with trustees. So does trust live forever? It can when the trustees and the management system is in place. If you don't have those components, it's not. Simple as that. There's no second opportunities. It's only one. It's trusteeship or not. Simple as that. So, trustees, you got your minutes. You know why you're renewing now. A lot of trustees always ask, well, why do we renew as trustees? Why is that a good fail safe? Because it comes from senior trusteeship. You wouldn't know what you wouldn't know, and it's good to talk about these little things that are inside of trusteeship so you can know that you know. Because when you know it, there's no reason for you not to know it anymore. It's very important. Appreciate Juanita Fleming for tuning in live, listening to replay. We actually do episodes. This is a Sunday service episode. We usually do pop up episodes throughout the week, and then we have our traditional 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time episode on Tuesdays. So we have a Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time episode, and then we have random pop up episodes throughout the week. And we really would love to get back into doing the Sunday service, and that's what we're doing today for trustees. Just do our best to bring the Sunday service because we do 1 day workshops, and so trustees always say that they wish they had more time. So Sunday service is a caveat to when they're flying home or they're going to get on that flight the next day after leaving our workshops on Saturdays. They get ready to go. The next day they wake up, they hear Sunday service, they can fly back. Things of that nature. If you're flying, driving, whatever you're doing. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to type into the chat where you're listening live or listening to replay from. Always appreciate that. A lot of trustees want to link up with each other in different parts of the country. So when you go and you look at the names and things, because people in trust deal with people in trust, you get to see the names of people. But obviously at the workshops, you're going to be able to meet people and be able to connect with them a lot better. Uh, at the workshops, and that's why we still do the workshops is for the trustees to connect with others and things of that nature across the country. Everyone has different ventures and businesses and things of that nature that they're working on. So, and it's an educational environment, but you always have senior asset managers. How often can you get in a room with senior asset managers? How many people have been trained in a private senior trustee managership? We know people with millions of dollars who are not trained in private trustee management, and they're not managing their money, and then they'll wonder why they'll be broke at one point in time in their life, or they'll wonder why they'll lose certain amounts of money, how they blew through certain amounts of money because they didn't have the right management system in place, they didn't have the right team in place. Building wealth, it does involve a team. So the workshops allow you to connect with senior asset managers, senior advisors, and things of that nature because we have them at our workshops as well. Appreciate California for tuning in live, listening to replay. Shout out to California for tuning in live, listening to replay. Sunday service for trustees, trust live forever. Some people may try to be fancy and say, okay, this is gonna live forever, but infinity is not a number. Once again, infinity is not a number. It describes an endless number. It's a describer. It's not a number. And so, even if it was for 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, it has some level of renewal period on it. Cause that's just good contract. That's just good business. It's always good to have an end date on something. How you gonna measure something if you don't have an end date? Where are the trustees supposed to be by the end of this year, the end of next year? See, where there's no expectations, there's no accomplishment. How are you gonna accomplish something and don't expect to accomplish it? No one falls into success. Trusteeship and trust management is the same thing. It requires diligence and planning. When people want to come to trusteeship and say, well, I'm not a good planner, Trust Christian. I'm not a good time manager, Trust Christian. That's not Trust Christian's problem. We can work with you to put systems in place, but are you open to putting systems in place? Are you going to let go of those negative beliefs? Because if you have those negative beliefs, if you're saying, I'm not good at this, when are you going to get good at it? That's the question Trust Christian in the Vault has for you. When are you going to get good at it? Because you have to get good at it in order for it to work. That's how it lives forever. You have to have good time management. How can you be an elite and you're not being an elite? You have to do what elites do. They have excellent time management skills. They have creative time. They have planning time. They have reevaluation time. These are management systems. How do you think companies get big? It's because they got good managers managing people to do jobs. That's a big business. Big businesses manage people. A trust manages people. A trustee manages people. A trust manages property. A trust can do what me and you can do. The only thing it's just something we can't do. We can't live forever. The trust can't live forever. I mean, you can't live forever. The trust can live forever. You can't live forever. Now, how crazy is that? In your lifetime, you can develop or create a system that can live forever. You're going to live forever. How? Through making sure that there's a system in place. See, we go. The system can stay forever. You know what the public school system is. You know what a system of government is. Those things can last generations because they're a contract. They're a trust. That's something we can't do as humans. Are you okay with that? If you come to grips and you're okay with it, then you'll develop something that is very unique and special because it's something that you can control. It's like a kite. You just need the wind to blow right. But you have a kite. The trust is a kite. You need the wind to blow right. That means you got to study. You got to know when to catch the wind. You can't just take a kite outside and it's going to go in the air. If it's not windy, it's not going to work. That's your preparation. You know when the wind is blowing. You have the kite. That's the trust. The air that's blowing is your preparation. Are you prepared as a trustee? Are you going to get continuing education courses as a trustee, senior or junior? Are you continuing your education as a trustee? That's what trustee training is. That's what the workshops are. It's a continuing education program. It's your preparation. It's the air. So when you have the air and you have the kite, you can fly it. And it does what it's supposed to do because it's a system. It's a part of a bigger system. It's bigger than me or you. We could literally pin the kite down, and if the wind's blowing, it's going to keep going and flying. That's preparation. That's trusteeship. That's Sunday service for trustees. Trust live forever. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Shout out to everybody that tuned in live, listening to replay. Feel free to reach out Christian at trustchristian.com for the workshop that we have coming up on May 1st. Feel free to reach out. We'll send you over the flyer and we'll go forward from there. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to